Hello, I'm Rhonda Lauritsen, and in this video, I'm going to talk about something super important. Super important. What is the naming convention for your projects? What are you going to name your files? That's a big decision. If you mess this up, your files could have trouble on the playground. Okay. I realize that every file name isn't so important because you can easily change that. But how you name all of your files can have a big impact on your life. So I want to show you what my files used to look like. And this falls into the category of if I knew then what I know now. If I had my business to start over again, this is one thing I would have adopted, a naming convention right from the beginning. I would have committed it to memory and stuck with it religiously because my files used to be a mess. And today I have order. So I want to show you, this is a screenshot that I pulled just today from a previous project. And these files aren't like horrible. I mean, I did bother to save them. They have good names. The dates are in a lot of them. But what you see here is that there's no rhyme or reason to it. They're all named by like the place where it originated or the name of the publication. In one place, I named it Church History Library, which was the source of where I got a file. So the problem with this is that because there's no rhyme or reason, the only real way to find files is to use the find function. And the travesty here is that I actually took the time to name the files. If I had had a naming convention and been consistent, I would have something that's tidy and organized today. So I'm going to show you how I do it now. Today, this is my naming convention, and I'll tell you why it works. So I start with the 4-digit year hyphen 2-digit month hyphen 2-digit day, and then I add a description. So an example would be from an old interview. It might be 1998-03-27 Jane Smith interview, early childhood. Now, I will say that I recently learned that one best practice is to hyphenate every word instead of using spaces. I didn't know better when I adopted my naming convention, and so I use spaces. I don't really know how much it matters, but I'm telling you that in case it does. Here's an example of why it makes more sense to start with the year first as opposed to the month or the day, because if you put the year first, then all of your files will always be in chronological order in the folder. Here's an example. I mean, normally when we're writing the date, like if we're just signing our name and date, we usually do like the month, then the day, then the year. That's in the US. If you're in Europe, you might do the month, you might do it differently. But you'll see that this is a hypothetical example, but if you have multiple files in a folder that are all from March 03, they will all be in the folder together and the years will be all jumbled up. So when you're looking for something, you don't look for it by the month, you'll look for it, you want to see it in real chronological order. So saving with the 4-digit year first allows you to always keep everything in chronological order. And now I want to show you an example of a project that I did recently. This was a nomination to the National Register of Historic Places. It was for the Sunnyfield Barn in Eden, Utah. And these types of projects, these building histories, are complex projects. And because of that, I will have a folder for each property owner, and then I'll have the files all named within those folders. So this is the folder for Richard Ballantyne, who was the original owner of the land, and you can see all of these files neatly saved. So I've learned a few things. The first one that I showed you was my very first National Register nomination, and here we have everything neatly saved in date order, and then with the explanations as to what they are at a glance. So you can quickly find something kind of by the time frame that it was generated, or you can use the find function and look for keywords as well. same amount of time. One is just a lot more organized. Next, I want to show you a case study that I had the great privilege of doing just this past week. I got to work side by side with a longtime colleague and student, Gordon, and we worked together at a family search center to digitize his parents' World War II letters. And these are just an absolute treasure. And he took the time before we got there to organize all of the letters into date order. He put them in 3-ring binders, in archival sheet protectors, and he took them out of the envelopes so they would lay nice and flat, and then put the envelopes on top. So both of us worked together, and it took us 5 hours to digitize this binder, but there were more than 80 letters with multiple pages, and we got the whole thing done, cropped, tagged, organized, everything. Now, you might think that in a big project like that, it would be too time consuming to pause and save the file names as you go. But because the scanning takes a few seconds, that ends up being one of the more time-consuming parts of the process. So that was my job, to take the letters out of the envelope, look at the dates, lay them on the scanner, while Gordon would operate the cropping process and saving the file names. So what we did is, as I pulled them out of the folder, I jotted down on a piece of scratch paper what the dates were, and you can see an example of that scratch paper here. So I'd write down the date, and then he would glance at it, because he couldn't look at it because the letter was on the scanner, right? So he's glancing at this while he's doing the data entry right there. Each time he's done, then he crosses it off and we move to the next one. We ended up with neatly saved letters, so you could go straight to the time frame that you want. And I will tell you that this step also saved our bacon several times when we got mixed up. Having the file names saved allowed us to quickly audit our work, because I'm telling you, errors always seem to happen in a big project. And if you're not methodical, you can end up burning daylight trying to figure out where you are. So without the file names, it would be time consuming, because you'd have to open each file, hunt for the date, try to see if you've got it saved. But this way we were able to just quickly look at the binder, look at the folder structure, see that the dates were there, and we were good to go. So at the end of the day, it just felt so good to have this done and then neatly organized. So in closing, if you have not created a naming convention for yourself, you don't have to use mine. I'm just telling you why it works. Regardless, adopt a naming convention today. Pause, make a decision of what your naming convention is going to be, tape it on your computer, look at it every single time you save a file of any type in your life, and do that consistently until you've committed it to memory and you can do it without even thinking about it. You'll be so glad you did.